Welcome to Lesson 4B of Unit 4 Statistics. So we're going to be talking about frequency tables and histograms, so organizing large pieces of data and being able to display it on a graph. So we need to remember what histograms and frequency tables are all about. We talked about line plots in the first lesson. Who remembers what a line plot is from the very first lesson? What would I do with a line plot? Anybody remember? With all those batteries, we had a number line on the bottom. A line plot is a number line. So we had number line, we had the numbers this way, and then we had to make dots above each number. So we made dots according to where the numbers were located. If they were repeated numbers, you made dots right above them if they were repeated. So how did we find whether or not you had a mode? The mode would be the one who is the tallest, the one who has the most. Okay? So that's line plots. Line plots are one way we can organize large pieces of data. The second way is with a histogram. So histograms, as we discussed yesterday, they are vertical bar graphs, but the bar graphs are connected, and they show ranges of data. So they're not going to just show the number 80. They would show a range, 80 to 90. Okay? I'll give you a minute to write those definitions down. Push pause now and play when you're ready. All right, let's take a look at an example. Our very first example here is a large set of data, and it's gathered about earthquakes measuring 7 or greater on the Richter scale. And these were measured from 1980 to 2009. So this is the data that they have gathered. So again, it's a lot of data. So what we've done is on the bottom of the page, I have shown you a list. I have started the list for you. I've already created the intervals. Okay? We just have to write how much data is in each interval. For example, I'm going to go back to the actual chart here. So the question's saying, the table to the right shows the number of earthquakes measuring 7 and greater on the Richter scale that occurred from 1980 to 2009. So we want to do a suitable interval size. So what we do is we count how many pieces of data we have. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 30 pieces of data. So if we've got 30 pieces of data, that's a lot of data to organize. So a good idea, whenever we want to organize ranges of data, we want a minimum of 5, a maximum of 12. If there's exactly 30, what would be a good size to divide it up into? Perhaps a range of 3, then we could have 10 ranges of 3. Okay, and what I mean by that is when you take a look at this scale, you'll notice the numbers are in threes. 1980, 81, 82, that's 3 years. 83, 84, 85, that's 3 years. So because there's 30 pieces of data, what I did was I took all of the data and I decided to make my interval being 3 years. Okay? So I have a 3-year interval, and that's what we're going to write on the top. 3-year interval. So every 3 years. So because I had 30 pieces of data, that means now I only have 10 pieces of data to organize. And that's much neater to organize. So now what we're going to do, I'm just going to get you to write this note real quick here. I know. So this is what you're writing down that I'm putting in a box. Okay, so I'll give you a moment to write that down. That's going to show us how to organize your data. Now this one here says organize it in a minimum of 5, a maximum of 12 intervals. So this is how you do it. I've already started with the chart given for you and the intervals already created with this first example. The next example, we're going to create it on our own. So this one, I'm helping you with the table. So what you're writing down in the box here that I have in yellow, that is how to create an interval table. Okay? So that is the interval table. And then on the right-hand side, this would be the frequency. So how many times, like what numbers come up. Okay? So that's what we are going to be adding up, is all those numbers. So I'll give you a moment to write that down. Push pause now and play when you're ready. Okay, back to our example. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take each of these and we're going to find out how many numbers fall into the range 180 to 182. So 1980 to 1982, we're going to add the numbers in these 3 years. So we would write down 37. Okay, so in our list right here, 37 is going to be for those years. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes. I want you to go through and fill out the rest of the table. Okay, as you can see, I've highlighted the 3 years that you're going to add together. The green ones are going to add together, the yellow ones are going to add together. And when we get them to our next chart, we should have the following totals. So, I'm just going to do every second one of different colors so it's easier to see.
I didn't get things right then.
And up here we've got 5, 38, 45, and 38. Okay, so check your numbers in there. Okay, what we're going to use now is we're going to use this information to create our vertical bar graph. So right over here, we need to, I've created the bar graph for you already, so this is what you're going to do. All of the steps are on the left-hand side. So the first step says, draw the histogram on lined paper. Well, I already gave you the histogram right here. So it says we've got to create our frequency table, which we just did, on our values and group them. Okay, we already did that. Now it says we got to title it. So what are we talking about? These are magnitudes of earthquakes. So we are going to say magnitude greater than 7. Okay, magnitudes greater than or equal to 7 actually. So it's earthquakes. Okay, so earthquakes with a magnitude greater than or equal to 7. Yeah. So, what we're going to do now, we gave it a title. Now it says we draw a border around our graph if we wish. We do have a square border. Now it says the bottom is where we place our intervals. So our intervals are placed here. Then it says the interval name is different according to each situation. So here we're talking about years. It could have been heights of something. You never know. Now we're going to draw our vertical bar graphs according to how high they go. So our very first one went 37. So I'm going to estimate up to 37, and I'm going to come down and draw a line in between those two lines. Okay? I'm going to draw a line in between those two lines. Now, I'm now going to shade this. We're going to shade that bar. Okay? And now we're going to take a look at the next number. The next number was a 36, so it's just lower. So if you've got a separate color, take a separate color. Or what I do in my books is I just draw diagonal lines, or you can draw squares, just draw something else that are identified differently. Otherwise, it's just going to look like one big shaded mess. Then we look at the second or the third interval, and it was 25, I believe. So now we go to 25, and it's going to be a shaded blue one. Okay, there's our third interval. The next one is 43. So we're going to go up past 40, not quite to 45, and cut that guy in the middle. Okay, and again, remember, we're going in between on the bottom. We're in between each of those years. And we continue on. The next one is going to be 38. So it's just under 40. We're going to connect the bar and draw a vertical line down. And we're going to shade that bar in. Yep, all of them should be in between. Yep, you betcha. I'm going a little further by accident here. Okay. The next one is at 51, so it's way up past the top here. So you're going to connect that bar and bring it on down. Okay. Now, the next one is going to be at 45. So we find 45 and connect our bar. And that one's going in between for 2001. I'm drawing a little bit crooked here. Just a little bit. So hopefully your bars aren't leaning to the right the way mine are. I got the Leaning Tower of Pisa bars up here. Okay. The next one is about 44, so it's just under. And then the second last one's 38, so just under 40. So just under 40 for that one. And then we need the 47. So the next one is going to be 47, so right next to the top. Oops, that's going to be our shaded bars. So we should have 5 blue bars and 5 red bars here. Okay, I'll give you a moment to finish that. Okay, so now that we've got our histogram created, all of our bars are joined. We now take a look at the next page. You did write down how to create a frequency polygon. Well, first of all of these are 4 steps here for you on your own. Well, what do we actually do? We create the histogram. That was step 1. Step 2 says you make dots on the middle of each of the tops of the bars. So I'm going to go back to here, and on each of the tops of the bars, right in the middle, I make a dot. So you need to make a dot in the middle on the top of each bar. Okay. Once you've done that, now you're literally going to connect those dots. This is called your frequency polygon. It's basically a broken line graph that joins the tops of the midpoints of each bar. So I'm going to join these together so we can see what kind of broken line graph we would get. Okay, so we get a broken line graph that looks something like that. Okay? Yep. Let's take a look at the next one. So, we're going to write down why and when we use each of the following. Okay, so we've organized our first example. We were able to create our frequency polygon. If we take a look just at our last example here, we're going to notice in green, which years did we get the largest amount or the greatest amount of earthquakes with the largest magnitude? Well, all we've got to do is look for the highest peak. Okay, so the highest peak is way up here. So right up here is where we're going to get the highest peak, and we go down, that's how you find the range of years. Okay? Now, if we're talking about these large pieces of data, how are we going to arrange it? When should we use each of these? This is what we're going to use them for. So, histograms, we use when we have large sets of data that are grouped into intervals or can be grouped, that have been or can be. Because it may not already be grouped for you. We had to group that other one into those intervals. So if you can group it into intervals, then you can use a histogram. Frequency polygons, on the other hand, they're good when you're graphically comparing 2 or more sets of data. So on our bar graphs, if we were to compare a different section, maybe we were comparing earthquakes that were less than 5, and we would compare both of those polygons, okay, to see where their peaks and valleys would be. Okay, so when we're comparing 2 or more sets of data, that's when we use our polygons. Okay, I'll give you a minute to write that down. Push pause now and play when you're ready. Okay, everybody, let's take a look at our last example. So, This is our orchard. We have a Macintosh apple orchard with 40 trees. So again, now we got 40 pieces of data. So again, it's large pieces of data, so we're not going to be putting the data into there. So what we're going to do is, when they use the numbers like this, for example, they say 1.0 to 1.3, then the next one starts at 1.3 again. The reason they're doing that is to show you that the bars are connected. But which group would you connect, or would you keep the 1.3 in? It's in the second one. So what happens is, you're only including, on this one, you're not including 1.3. 1.3 is included in that grouping. 1.6 will be included in that grouping. Okay, so this last number is not included in the grouping of this range. Okay, they're just showing that last number so that they show you that the bars will be connected. Okay, we just noticed that this is actually going to be backwards. 1.3 will be included in that grouping. 1.6 will be included in that grouping. So they're not going to include the front number. They'll include the back number, though. So on this one, they're going to include the 1.4, 1.5, and 1.6. Those are the numbers they'll include in that category. Okay? So I'm going to give you a couple minutes. I'd like you to fill out your categories. I want you to fill out the rest of the height frequencies. Okay, so I'll give you a couple minutes. Push pause now and play when you're ready. So everybody should be taking a look. How did this number 4 come about? The number 4 came about because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers that are within this range of numbers, 1.0 to 1.3. Remember, 1.3 is included there. The next range of numbers, I'm looking for 1.4, 5, and 6. So then I'm going to count them. There's 1.4, 1.5, 1.6. I've got another 1.5, and that's all. So I've got how many more numbers? 4. Okay? Now I'm going to go to the next set of numbers. The next set says 1.6 to 1.9. But remember, it doesn't include that first number. So I'm looking for the 1.7, 1.8, 1.9. So 1.7, 1.9, 1.8, 1.7. And that's all we see there.
The 1.8 on the standard, right?
1.8, thank you. And there's another 1.9. Perfect. So we've got 6 numbers in that range. So all those numbers are now not being used, so I can now cross them off. So cross those numbers out, or not use them anymore, you've already used them. So now we're going to look at the next set of numbers. So 2.0 to 2.2. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Found 8 numbers. There's no more. Okay, so that'll be an 8 for that range. Please carry on. Okay, here we see our table is completely filled out. Now we're going to take the information from here and we're going to plot it on our frequency chart, okay? I'd like you to make a histogram and a frequency polygon. Let's pause down, play when you're ready. Okay, let's take a look at the frequency polygon now. We've got our histogram created. The frequency polygon is going to be created by putting midpoint dots on each of your bars. So midpoint dot on each bar, we're going to make the frequency polygon. Okay, now we're going to connect those dots. So flat line here, diagonal, diagonal, flat line, steep one right there, and then a horizontal. Okay, there's a frequency polygon. So now we're answering our question. Most frequently is going to be 1.9 to 2.2, and 2.2 to 2.5. Those are our two highest bars. The two smallest bars, the two on the very end. So they're going to be 2.8 to 3.1 and 3.1 to 3.4. Okay? So those are the least. We already created our frequency polygon. This shows us the range of data. Okay? This now concludes lesson 3B. 4B, pardon me. Here is your recap to review